shalom, my friends, and shalom, my enemies, and shalom, everybody, to you live here on this Shabbos morning. It is April 20th, 2024, and I am still me, and I am still Jewish, and I am Rabbi Sol Solomon of blessed memory, here in front of you just a couple of days before the wonderful holiday of Pesach, and to celebrate, what's better way to celebrate anything than with art and entertainment and lecturing. Here's a person that we're going to have with us momentarily on the program here that does all of these and does them about all these different characters, all these legends of the show business, if you will. And I know you will. So we're going to have a man who is playing Joel Grey, a man who is playing Danny Kaye, a man who is playing that great song and dance man, Giovanni de Verrazzano. Here he is, coming all the way from Long Island. I will have you, and he's even unmuted his thing, so he should be all ready. Won't you welcome to the Jewish neighborhood, Bob Spiotto. Shalom, Bob.
Hello, hello.
How you doing? How's it going?
How are you? Oh, I'm so glad we're both wearing red.
The rabbi in red. Here I am, the rabbi in red. So shalom, Bob. You see, you got that soggy dancing thing that you do when you do people like Cantor and Joel Grey and things like that. So first of all, shalom, and how you doing, Bob? How's it?
I'm very good. How are you? How are you?
Can you angle your give yourself a little less headroom and a little more tiggy room? Yeah. Oh no, too much. Yeah. Oh, now you're looking good. Looking good. So, what's new with you, Bob? How's your year going?
It's been very, very, look, I am so grateful. I'm so thankful. It's been so busy. In addition to my job as the director of events and the clubhouse manager at Country Pointe in Plainview, there's just been a lot of other wonderful outside opportunities for performances and creativity. And I'm doing things from Manhattan to Montauk and everywhere in between. So wow. I'm all over.
That's a lot of miles, because Manhattan to Montauk, that's 3.5 hours on the Long Island Railroad. No, sorry, it's the Long Island Railroad. 5.5 hours on the Long Island Railroad. But no, I'm kidding. But let me ask you. So let's take it back.
Yes.
We'll talk about all the shows you're doing, including the Joel Grey one that's coming up very, very shortly. It's like this week or next week?
Tomorrow.
So, there is this. So tomorrow, well, technically tomorrow's next week. But okay. Right. Wait, where are you doing it?
I will be at the Lynbrook Public Library.
Lynbrook! Oh, I know it well. Oh, my God. There was a guy who got knifed in Lynbrook about 25 years ago by a gang. But that is the only crime that ever happens there. It's otherwise a really safe and wonderful neighborhood.
It is, I think, yes.
Lynbrook Public Library, and it's their Joel Grey is called Shades of Shades. So
yes.
A doc. Right. So are you impersonating him? Are you just giving a lecture about him and doing some? So what is it?
Okay, so all of these tributes that I do, whether it's Danny Kaye, Joel Grey, Verrazzano, P.T. Barnum, Primo Levi, Sholem Aleichem, who I also do. Yes, you heard of him, I know. I don't necessarily try to impersonate per se. I try to embody the spirit. I try to give the audience a sense, a feel of these individuals. So I'm not necessarily, again, impersonating. I don't do crazy prosthetics and makeup. Not that I need much prosthetic over here, but that's besides the point with this proboscis.
You're talking to a Jew here. So, hey, I'm going to veer off from this because Sholem Aleichem, Danny Cantor, you've done, Danny Kaye. You, Spiotto, I imagine you're Italian.
That is correct. Even though the name on the bottom says Rochelle, that's my wife's name. I'm on her computer if you see it.
Oh, well, yeah. So thank you, Rochelle, for letting the man be there. But let me ask you, so Italian, how come you're not doing, at the moment, more Italian? And how come you're not doing Dean Martin, let's say, or something
right.
like that? Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring up Dean Martin, because I also do a show called That's Amore, which is about, not Dean Martin, it's about Harry Warren. Harry Warren was the amazing and incredible composer for thousands of songs that were used in the movies. He was really known as Mr. Hollywood Musical. But when I try to promote that show, people say, Bob, we'd love a show about Dean Martin. But it's not about Dean Martin. It's about the man who wrote That's Amore and many, many other songs.
He also wrote songs for the Marx Brothers. So it was kind
Yes,
of
yes.
back to Jewishness.
And even songs from music and films that Eddie Cantor was in. So I find that there's a lot of crossover with a lot of these people that I resonate with or resonate with me. And I don't know if they're finding me or I'm finding them or both. But, you know, we have a word in Italian. It's actually a Sicilian word that's appropriate. We say that this is beshert. You know from this word.
This word I know from, I do. You must have grown up with Jews because you know you're a New Yorker. You must have been surrounded by Yidlach because you have the cadence. You've got the language too. But let me ask you: were you raised Catholic, Italian, or just
Yes,
non-religious, or what? Yeah.
yes. Catholic elementary school, at Catholic high school. I even did my graduate work at the Catholic University of America in Washington.
What is it? It's called. Is it called
The
Catholic?
Catholic University of America. That's what it's called. It's in Washington, D.C.
Wow. So after all that religion being drummed into you, do you still go to church, or are you kind of just secular and you know?
I'm more secular. I don't attend church, but there's a very much a spiritual sense about me, and I do connect on those various levels to the best of my ability. So there's definitely something else going on out there.
So you seem like a cool guy that's hard to offend. So I will ask this question: do you believe in Jesus Christ, and if so, why?
Uh,
I mean, have you ever spoken to him? Have you ever, you know, has he appeared?
No. I speak to a lot of people. I speak to a lot. I speak to the universe, the guides, the guardians, the ancestors. They're all around. Yeah, that's why I really feel as of late, there's been a lot of wonderful positivity coming to me. Thanks to my wife, I meditate every day now. I find that very, very helpful.
Oh, no, wait, masturbate's wrong word. Okay.
It's different. Yeah, it's very different.
Very, very
different location. You know, the head is involved, just the wrong one.
Oh, you're good. Oh, you are good, my friend. Yes, indeed. I love this. So let me ask you, what was the first one-man show that you ever put together years ago?
Believe it or not, it was the Danny Kaye. It was Courting the Jester, my musical tribute to Danny Kaye, and I worked on that show. I mean, that's been kicking around since 2001.
That long ago, all right. Yeah. So you already had some years. You were at Hofstra at that point still, or where were you at?
I was, and I had done so many shows. I mean, I've been doing shows, and I've been in this creative world since day one, maybe before day one.
Oh, so that wasn't. So what was your first show on day one, or what?
Okay, so the first show I was ever in, you mean as a kid?
Oh, as an actor, yeah. But yes, what was it?
That was The Sound of Music.
And were you Maria or who?
No, I wanted to play Maria, but you know that didn't work. I couldn't impersonate her as an elementary school kid. Nowadays, you probably could. It would be
nowadays,
fine.
They want you as Maria. You can't get into the show.
No, I obviously played. I played Kurt. I played one of the Von Trapp.
And this was children. In what? High school, junior high school? Where?
Elementary school.
Oh, elementary. So did you get the bug, or were you just doing
it because you loved it? I did, and that was it. And then from that point on, I was doing shows in elementary school, high school. I went to an all-boys high school, so they had to ship the girls in for rehearsals. But and that was the first time in high school that I was really introduced to Joel Grey because I played the Master of Ceremonies in Cabaret.
At that age, you were in Cabaret. That's it's kind of interesting. They ship the girls in for rehearsal and they ship them out pregnant because no. Anywho, but so you were the MC in Cabaret. You were in Sound of Music. What were some of the other shows that you were in as a teen or child?
Okay, so all right, so as a teen or as a child, let's see. I played Oliver in.
You were Oliver in Oliver. I see.
In Oliver.
No offense, I see you more as the Artful Dodger type.
You know, for whatever reason, that director at that time, again in elementary school, saw me more as an Oliver, and so I did that. And there were a couple of other smaller shows in elementary school. High school was again more important because that's when Cabaret came along. I was in Pippin, played the leading player, believe it or not.
So you can dance. I didn't realize.
Yes. Oh, I was the single male for the most part in the all-female dance school in Flushing for well over 10 years. I learned a lot.
So you learned today. That must have been a happy time.
Yes.
It's like, and you didn't even have, because in a place like that, even if they had more males that would have been all homosexual, you still would have had your pick. But and I mean, so here's the deal. Once you got out of high school, I assume you wanted to be in the arts. Is that what you studied in college, or did your parents say, no, do business?
My parents were always incredibly supportive. I used to play the flute in the band. I used to play the guitar, not at the same time. So I was always involved in so many different things. Even through college, I was doing clowning, and I dressed up as a mime. I was doing singing telegrams all over. I was so active in college, not only in shows, but doing publicity for the drama department. I have a BFA in theater performance from Hofstra. My master's is in directing from Catholic University. So it was one thing after another. I mean, one thing led to another, and all of these opportunities, whether I was seeking them out or, again, they were finding me, it was always just so special and so wonderful. The synergy was great.
Let me ask you about directing a Catholic university. I mean, it was a master's level thing, but were there projects that you wanted to do or kids wanted to do? Kids, they were already almost adults there, or they were the master's program. But the university was like, don't do that play. That you can't do Rent, or you can't do Agnes of God, or whatever the hell it is, or there was kind of gloves off because it was theater. Just happened to be a religious-ish school.
I don't recall there being any issues like that. As a student there, and as a graduate student, all of the courses were heavily focused on directing, obviously. I mean, we took playwriting courses, some additional acting courses, but we were really targeted and focused, a handful of us, on following through on our desire to become working directors. Because I had also done so many things prior to that, it was very helpful. And while I lived in Washington, D.C. for about 3.5 years, 4 years, I was consistently working and teaching. I was directing children's shows. I was directing high school shows. I was really keeping myself incredibly active, doing a lot of different things. I was involved in a Shakespearean production while I was there. So I was also acting at Catholic University while being enrolled in the graduate directing program. So many opportunities, because when you're in Washington, D.C., you go 5 minutes this way, you're in Maryland. You go 5 minutes this way, you're in Virginia. My thesis project, which I directed at the Little Theater of Alexandria in Virginia, was Man of La Mancha. It actually won an award that year for one of the best local productions. And it was a very intimate production. People think of Man of La Mancha as this, very, very big kind of huge Broadway. Yeah,
well, the first half takes place in a dungeon, so
exactly. And I took that little theater and made the audience feel like they were in jail, that they were in the dungeon. The prisoners, everybody was around them. I'll never forget that production, because for me, it was another one of those milestones, at least in my development, at least so I thought.
Yeah, no, I was doing some kind of prison play, and I actually had members of the audience get raped. But then there was one night and
closed right away. Yeah, exactly.
It was the soap dropping play, we called it, nicknamed it. Anyway, but let me ask you though. So it seems like your career was on a trajectory for you to be a director across America, or a director off Broadway, and maybe God willing at Broadway. That was not how your career went. Now, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just wondering, why didn't it? What happened?
I don't really know. People ask that question, and that people will say to me, well, Bob, have you ever been, on Broadway? And I say, yes, I've been on Broadway in Hicksville, on Long Island. I've been on Broadway, every town has a Broadway, right? Did I audition once or twice? I think I did. I mean, but I don't even remember what I auditioned for, to be honest with you, in the city. I know I took some dance classes in the city for a while, but so many opportunities were presenting themselves to me, or I was just automatically seeking them out on Long Island and in the general area, that I just kept going.
But we're talking about marketing now, not even directing or acting. We're talking
all of the above. Teaching. I mean, at Hofstra, I was teaching classes, continuing education classes. I was teaching acting classes for children, clown classes, improvisation, adult classes while at Hofstra. And that was while I was a student at Hofstra. I also became the mascot for the football team. And I was,
No.
yes, and I was out on the football field entertaining and performing.
All right, wait. Time out. First of all, what is, or what was, maybe they've changed it. What was the Hofstra mascot?
At that time, the mascot was a screaming Dutchman.
Why? Is Hofstra a Dutch name?
Dutch,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Dutch roots, yes.
So did you just go through this screaming?
Oh, well,
What did you have to do as a mascot?
I was a very Dutch with the fancy hat and the sword and the cape. I mean, it was a real character. But then I was changing outfits and doing other little funny characters and getting everybody riled up out on the field and also in the stands. Obviously there was a pep band that would play. And after a while, I mean, the football team wanted me to go with them on their away games. The basketball team wanted me.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And I did that for 3 years of the 4 years that I was at Hofstra, in addition to being in shows. You know, because obviously my track at Hofstra was that of a performer. So, you know, I was
before Catholic, and you were directing.
this was before, yes, exactly. But
yeah.
But while I was at Hofstra, I was also doing a lot of directing in junior high schools and high schools. There were times when I had 3 and 4 shows that I was directing at the same time.
Were you paid for that? You weren't just volunteering. These were
Yes,
paid.
no volunteer work. No, that's why I'm saying I'm so grateful. And I was really, and then I started my own little private little company called Commedia Concepts. And I was doing, you know, narrations and coaching. And then I created this clown character because I had played the role of Touchstone in Shakespeare's As You Like It.
Right.
And I think that was the start of my connection to the fool, you know, who's really the smartest one of the bunch.
You're on this program with me. You are connected to a fool. Trust me. Yes.
So I kind of took on that character, created a costume and created and now all of a sudden I was entertaining at parties and other events and got involved with a couple of other people on Long Island who were running at that time these singing telegram companies. There were, and so I was going around. I mean, I don't think you could do those today. That nobody would let you in anywhere. But I was going into buildings and homes and doing.
Got to stop you there again. What is the weirdest, funniest thing that ever happened when you were delivering a singing telegram?
Oh boy, wow. I think I don't know if I remember any one specific element other than the fact that, you know, look, these were all surprises, right? And nobody knew they were going to get a singing telegram. So there was always that element of, oh my God, what is this? What's happening? What's going on here? Some people were a little turned off. Some people were a little embarrassed. Other people really, really got into it. But I think the one time, which was funny to me, on occasions, I would also have to deliver the balloons with the singing telegrams. I had a small car at the time. The balloons used to be bagged up into a big garbage bag, and I used to have to wedge them into my car carefully. Well, one night or one day, I don't even remember, but I took the bag of balloons out of my car, and the wind came, and up went the bag and the balloons. Yeah. So, I guess bound to happen.
I mean, if that's the worst thing I ever happened, I thought maybe you came in with anniversary flowers and a song, and you walked in on the wife stooping like the mail.
No. Thankfully, there were no issues with that, other than just people being, I guess, surprised. But yeah.
So all of these things are kind of leading ultimately back to Hofstra, though. Once you're done, I mean, you were there for like 20-something years, no?
Well, Hofstra, I'm talking just as a student. And then, of course, and then I wound up doing more work on the island. I wound up auditioning for other graduate schools. Catholic University accepted me. I had been put on a waiting list the year before for Carnegie Mellon, and that didn't pan out. But I was very thankful to have wound up in Washington.
You should have applied to Carnegie Orange. They're much more accepting. Wow. Ding, ding. No, that's one ding right there. That's
Just one, just one.
yeah, one.
And then Hofstra wound up, I had stayed in touch with Hofstra while I was in Washington. And one of my colleagues who I had gone to school with was working there. And I obviously knew a lot of people. And the then president of the university, who I had gotten along with very, very well, had been in touch with one of his friends. And we were talking, and it came up. I was basically invited to come back, and they wanted to create a position for me. Yeah, again, very, very fortunate. And they did, and I came back, and then it was,
And what did you do in that as an actual position? Because were you still directing, or you were bringing in things? What?
Directing, producing, teaching, acting, everything. Running big international festivals, working with the cultural center, booking classical artists, creating programming, working very much with the academic departments to advance their goals and their mission when they were presenting, say, a interdisciplinary conference. So there might be a 3-day conference on something, and my charge was to come up with the musical or the theatrical or the creative element to enhance that. So it was so creative for me. I was able to commission some pieces, find pieces, direct, create, work with people like Tova Feldsha.
And what, she's been on this program. What did you work with her for?
So I wound up reaching out to Tova. She wound up playing Sarah Bernhardt for me.
Whoa!
Yes, yeah. It was a one-woman.
Tova, let alone Sarah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. I mean, she was brilliant. We had such a great time. We're still in touch. We still speak on occasion. Of course, I've run into her when I was at the Friars Club on several occasions. But so yeah, I really had some amazing creative opportunities at Hofstra, working there, but also being able to perform again, and that was amazing because
perfect gig because
came home. Yeah.
No, and also just like you were doing so many different like times you could just book people, but other times you had to direct some. Other times you were performing, and this whole time you're making a salary and getting benefits. I mean, does life get better than that?
Right.
Why? So that lasted over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason you left what sounds like a perfect job?
I didn't leave. They decided that that they wanted to go in a bit of a different direction. Their goals and their focus really shifted more to the law school, to the medical school, things of this nature. And all of these amazing programs that we were providing for the community with Hofstra Entertainment all just stopped. And I had been called into the office of the provost on a warm June afternoon, and he and the assistant provost basically told me that as of August 31st of that year, just a few months in advance of this meeting, that Hofstra Entertainment would no longer exist, and unfortunately that I would no longer have a position. Needless to say, devastated, shock of all shocks. But they allowed me to continue that summer season, which hadn't even begun yet. It had already been promoted and publicized. So I was able, some people are given maybe 2 weeks notice.
True.
I was given 3 months notice, which,
all right. I mean, fair enough. But then you're working that whole time. Was your resume out? I mean, were you terrified?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Because I thought I'd be at Hofstra for the rest of my days. I figured they would find me dead in the stairway or on stage or something at some point, right?
Yeah, that's Columbia. But
I'm sorry I don't have a bell to ding.
I'll do that
one. Okay. But thankfully, once again, I had remembered, because I've always been very, very in touch with so many Long Island theater people over the years and gotten to know so many people. I remembered that the Suffolk Theater in Riverhead had been kicking around for a while, that it had closed back in 1987. The last film they ever showed there was Dirty Dancing. And it basically had just been sitting there. But I remembered reading some articles that there was someone who was thinking of reopening it, restoring it to its 1930s grandeur and glory. I contacted that man. We got together, and after a few weeks, he hired me to be the first executive artistic director. And that place then did open. So I was involved with everything leading up to the grand opening of this grand and glorious space. I was there for about a year. It was tough. It was a tough area, and an area that didn't have anything like this. And when you're opening a new theater or a performing arts center, whatever you'd like to call it, and you want it to be a cultural center for a neighborhood that is consistently being revitalized, that takes time. There's never an overnight success. And it's tough when you're told to use your formula so that everything can magically happen. Okay, it's not can't be Disney World overnight.
Now, the reason you're telling this is because you lasted there just over a year. That's
Right.
they didn't even give you like 3 years to build an audience,
Right.
build a season, build a thing.
Exactly.
What was your greatest success there? What do you feel most proud of when you were at the Suffolk Theater?
Oh. Well, the fact that I was involved with the opening, and the opening was spectacular. The spotlights, the 1930s cars parked outside, everybody dressed. The year that it opened, Mayor Fiorello H. LaGuardia was the mayor of New York City when the Suffolk Theater first opened in Riverhead. So I brought my friend, the actor Tony LoBianco, out as LaGuardia because he had done the Broadway show, His Honor. And what's funny is that I had worked with Tony at Hofstra on a LaGuardia show. So he came out, Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks. Now, Vince,
Oh, we know them. They've been on this program as well. Yes,
I
yes.
mean, amazing. They were the music that night. It really was a very, very special night. And there were other uh, performers and performances in the time that I was there because I was trying everything because I didn't know what was going to stick. I wanted to throw it all against the wall and see what would hold. I wound up doing, I remember doing a showing of My Fair Lady to celebrate an anniversary. So we showed the film because we could show films in there. And I brought in Rex Harrison's grandson. Yeah, I mean, little just unique things like that. I did a Moonstruck night and brought Anita Gillette out, who played Mona in
Another person who's
Moonstruck.
been on this program. I'm sorry, I just have to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But
Um,
but was it the fact that audiences just didn't know to go there, or you were assuming the audience was this age and they were actually that age? I mean, why didn't it take off? Because they said, "Oh, we want a different direction." What direction did they want to go? Rock concerts? What did they want?
Well, and we were doing some of that. I was bringing in jazz. I mean, Ambrosia came for crying out loud. I mean, I was booking.
All right, yeah.
I was booking or tried to book a lot of different things to see, but as you point out, and this is totally true, it does take time to develop that. There's just so much trial and error in a place where nothing has been. Um, so I guess the combination of my vision and my goals and my willingness to give my blood, sweat, and tears, which I do all the time, it just, believe it or not, I guess it just wasn't fast enough. And so
They went a different.
that was that, and that's fine. I moved on. There was a brief period of looking again and searching, and then thankfully, I wound up at the Friars Club, the legendary Friars
Explain
Club
to
in New
our
York.
audience, especially women, well, what the Friars Club is and what they're still. Did they finally close, or is it the Players Club, the Club Friars Club? They died like a couple of years ago. But what were they?
The Friars Club is we're talking well over 100 years in existence and in various locations in New York City. Started as a group of men who wanted to get together. Many of them were press agents working on various shows. At that time, they needed a place to gather, so they would gather in restaurants. And before you know it, they wanted to formalize this in a way that they could come together, bring more people together, and they wanted some kind of fraternity. They wanted to give themselves a name, a moniker. They wanted to be recognized as such. And that's how kind of this idea of the Friars came into existence, and then just grew and grew and blossomed and blossomed. And they went from place to place to place. Eventually, at least where I was, and for a good number of years, they were on East 55th between Park and Madison. An incredible building, beautiful, beautiful building.
Which is now what? Do you even know what it turned into?
Empty. Well, because unfortunately the club folded.
No, I was wondering if maybe a Gristides took it over or something.
No, there's nothing in there. it's just the building and everything is still in there as far as I know. I mean, I don't know, and I have no idea what's going on. I obviously am still in touch with and made so thankful for having made so many amazing and wonderful connections. I
Did you
mean,
know Freddie Roman?
I did, yes. Freddie and I worked on a few events together. May he rest in peace.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. And who else? I mean, legends. When were you at the Friars? What years? When was that?
So that was 2012, I guess.
So not that long ago.
Not that long ago, no. And, and for the time prior to that, a lot of the members were trying to put their own little shows together. And, they were doing what they could with that, but they never had a person who was identified, and I had been recommended by a wonderful, dear, talented friend by the name of Laura Slutsky, who was a longtime friar.
Yes.
You might. Laura's from that Woodmere area, Lynbrook, if you,
Yes, damn it, yes.
Okay.
We called her Laura the Slut. She didn't like that.
Yeah, that's so only one. Yeah, she had recommended to the then executive director, and she said, I got the guy for you. If you're looking for somebody who can come in and produce and put these things together and perform and write and narrate and be a master of ceremonies and blah, 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 I got the guy. I met with him, and he basically offered me the position. And so
you must have been back in heaven again. Because after Hofstra, with all the stuff you got to do there, I mean, now you're doing it, and you're putting together shows, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe I'll. Well, Henny Youngman was probably gone by then, just
gone.
But what legendary people were you surrounded by that wanted to do things that you helped do?
At any given time, there might be actually somebody in the club, but when we renamed the Richard Lewis John downstairs, the restroom, the men's room, which we posted all over Facebook, obviously. I mean, may he rest in peace. But yeah, so I mean, people like him, Robert Klein, for example.
Another person who's been on this program. Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, Robert did a show for me at Country Pointe last spring. Judy Gold. I mean,
you know what? Give me Judy Gold's goddamn email because I've been trying to get her for 20 years.
Oh yeah, you got to get her. She's got to be.
Oh, she's hilarious.
Amazing. But I mean, I had the pleasure of working with Dina Martin. Speaking of Dean Martin, Dean's daughter.
Yeah.
And of course, again, a Freddie Roman, Gilbert Gottfried, Jerry Lewis.
Oh,
Jerry Lewis. He's ever on your show.
Whoa. Do you have a Jerry Lewis story?
Not.
It doesn't have to be a bad one. It can be a lovely one.
No. To be honest, I really don't have a story other than the few times that he came to the club and that amazing film that he did, Max Rose.
Oh, that one. Okay,
yeah.
Not the clown one. Okay, no,
not the clown one. But we did a screening, and Jerry was there, and he sat there. Speaking of red, because he very often wore that red sweater, and he just sat there on the director's chair, and it was, I mean, to be in the room where it happened, unreal, with him.
Were you involved in any of the roasts? Because that's what the Friars are most sort of known for now.
So when Jeff Ross took over a lot of those various roasts, and he was doing those things for Comedy Central, the club itself was less involved. But we were doing special tributes. So while I was there was an amazing tribute that we did, not at the club, because we had to do them at large hotels in the city. We were at Cipriani, down in Wall Street, and various other locations, the Hilton Hotel, the Ziegfeld Ballroom. I was involved with the Martin Scorsese tribute, which was amazing. The stars that were involved in that, obviously incredible. We did a Billy Crystal tribute, which was also amazing. So, there were so many opportunities while I was there, and I was creating programs and events and combining the dinner and the entertainment and comedy nights and musical nights and it just lectures, very much what I do now at Country Pointe.
Country Pointe. So this is now again, Country Pointe is Plainview, is it, or where is it?
Plainview.
Mm-hmm. Which is that Nassau, Suffolk, where they
right on the border, literally right on the border.
So what are some of the events besides the ones that we'll talk about that you're doing that you brought in to Country Point? Like what lectures
So as I
parties? Yeah.
kind of alluded to a few minutes ago, I was able to work with the Northwell system, and Northwell became a
A
partner
health
in
group, aren't they? Yeah.
the
Aren't they
hospital.
a medical thing, Northwest?
Northwell, oh, tremendous,
Yeah,
huge, yeah. Well, because Plainview Hospital is right down the road from
it
Country
should
Point.
be. You know, we
Yes,
know the age of the people we're talking about. Yeah,
yes, yeah. Country Point is over 55, but a very, very active over 55. We have over 660 units. So you figure there's at almost 2 people to every unit, maybe 3. We have well over 1,000 people. That's my captured audience that come to these things. And they've been very, very supportive because they haven't had the kinds of things that I've been doing there in almost 3 years that I've been there. It's been very, very busy 3 years for all of us.
oh, hell of a
And, but as I mentioned, I created this Laughter is the Best Medicine comedy series with Northwell, and that was Robert Klein and Judy Gold.
Wait, not the same day. You brought them on different. They were
Different. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly, no. I did an AGT night, America's Got Talent night recently, where I brought in one of the magicians who people remember from America's Got Talent, along with a comedian who actually may have been on your show, Dan Natterman.
No.
No,
Is he funny?
he's funny.
That's all I want to know.
Yes.
Put me in touch. I would love to.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. All right. Yeah.
So yeah, and the magician on that show is Eric Wilzig, also a Long Island guy, very good. They loved him.
Yeah.
But we've done. I did a whole celebration. Last year was the big anniversary for the founding of the state of Israel. I'm sure you must have done a whole. You heard of this? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I kind of retooled and reworked a production that I had directed in the city called Harry and Eddie, written by the late playwright Mark Weston. It's about the founding of the state of Israel. It's basically a 3-character play, and it reveals and uncovers a piece of Jewish American history that even Jews don't know about.
So was Harry Truman?
Harry Truman, yes, and Eddie Jacobson.
Yeah. Eddie Jacobson was a haberdasher or an actor?
He was, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I should give you a bell for that. Boy, you're right. I'm telling. Thank you.
I'll let you share my bell here. Hold your hand.
So I've been trying to bring in a real interesting variety. Of course, all the various musical nights that we do when we have big events, lounge, bar and lounge nights. I've done bingo with Bob. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And just so many and the residents have become more inspired now to do things. We have a resident, and I've been coaching some of the residents. We're doing a famous women in history event in a couple of weeks. And there's about 9 or 10 women. And this was the brainchild of one of the residents. And she came to me and said, Bob, I have this idea. Can we make this happen? To which I always say, of course. Anything creative like this that brings the community together and allows people to do really what they want to do, that's exciting.
Actually, can I ask you for the events that you guys do, whether you're acting in them or the residents? Right. Is it only for residents, or is it for
correct?
The public? So the general public is
residents only. Yeah. Which makes it feel a little country club-like when you think about it, because again, it's almost like you're in a country club, you're paying dues to be a member of that club, even though we know what Groucho Marx said about being a member of a certain country club. But in any case, it's similar to that, but it's also very similar to the way the Friars Club was, because sometimes limited guests could be brought, but then the club was a very small space. The ballroom at Country Point is a large space.
Was it like 900 seats, or how many was?
No, not that large. Not that large. No. Yeah, no, we're more in that seated theater style. We can get 250, 275.
Oh, so it's like an off-Broadway house.
If you want to compare it to the numbers, you could say that. But we've done health lectures, author appearances. Actually, this is another one that would be of interest, I think, to you and maybe some of your audience. Yeah. We have an author coming in doing a presentation on, does the name Marty Glickman mean anything to you?
Oh, New York Jets, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't he the announcer? Yes or no?
He was an athlete. He was a sport. I mean, he did everything. And we have a gentleman, his name is Jeff Gorak, the author, who's written a book about him. We're bringing him in. But we also run outside trips. Our Italian club is taking a trip to Arthur Avenue in the Bronx in a couple of weeks. We've got trips going to some of the local theaters to see some of the various productions. So yeah, so there's just a lot going on, in addition to just all the daily activities, the games, who's playing Mahjong, who's playing canasta.
Are you involved in that too? Is that your thing as an actor?
I don't necessarily get actively involved in those unless we're doing something big, such as a tournament of some sort, you know, that brings it up a notch. But look, the people come and go. The clubhouse is, you know, is pretty much, you know, if Country Point is Emerald City, I'm the Wizard of Oz, you know. Blah, blah. No bell.
Hold the bell.
But don't.
Yeah, no.
So, but it's exciting. It really feels a little like, I mean, in another life, I was probably a tumbler in the Catskills. There's no question about that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I feel like I'm doing here, because I'm doing my own little stand-up comedy with everybody every day. And that's what it's fun. You know?
Now, can I ask you, is it, there's this place in New York called Manhattan Plaza, where you have people who are in the arts, and you have to get on a waiting list for like 74 years, and then just before you die, you get an apartment. Is Country, how booked, can people get into Country Point, or do you
sold out?
Until
just recently. Yeah.
So who's dying? Who's 88 there and not in good shape? So that we can name on the. Just asking. I'm just wondering. No, but seriously, is there a way?
Everything has gone to contract within the last, I think, month or so, and now several homes are waiting to close. People will move in, and the sponsor, who is the builder, Beechwood Builders, Beechwood Homes, one of the biggest around, they'll be out, and then the place will be run and overseen by the HOA and the management company. And
I'm lost. This has been already open. What are you talking here? You're saying there's more apartments being built, or I don't get it.
No. But it still has to be managed and run in general. Yes. Yeah, with everything that goes on.
Okay, but there's no. But what I'm saying is, if somebody wants to move to this wonderful apartment building complex thing with 55 and older, and wants to partake, because the general public is not allowed, you have to be there. Right. Will there be openings to do that?
If unfortunately by fate or some other reason something becomes available, then there will be resales, and there have been resales. There have been resales already.
They don't pay rent. They're owners also.
That is all owners. Yes. Wow. You know, you're buying your condo, you're buying your townhome, you're buying your villa, and those are the three options you have. And, you know, the clubhouse itself is almost 25,000 square feet, 3 floors. We have a game room, we have TVs, a couple of bars.
You know, this is wonderful, but now you're telling us all this stuff about a place that nobody can go to. Why are you wasting my fucking time with this? Tell us about things that you're doing that humans who aren't part of this complex.
Right. Okay.
This soma making machine. Where can we see you?
Okay.
The general public.
Right. So the perfect segue, as I said, tomorrow with my musical director, Steve Pagano from East Meadow, we'll be doing the Joel Grey, the Shades of Grey.
Where?
And that's at the Lynbrook Public Library at 1:30. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Okay.
And what else? Yeah. What other?
And Joel, by the way, Joel Grey just turned 92 years young on April 11th.
Mazel. Hey, look, Marilyn May is 96, so she's.
Love Marilyn May. Love Marilyn May.
Yes. That's amazing. Some of the things that people are doing. So
unreal. So there's that.
Show, or would you ever do a woman?
No, Marilyn. It's funny. I had the opportunity of taking a few fun vocal classes with Marilyn, and I, of course, used to see some of her shows. She did some things for us at the Friars over the years. I actually ran into Marilyn on the street. I didn't run her over. I ran into her. Any case. But a couple of weeks ago, when I was in the city meeting, I may be doing something in the city with Friars, but at the Iridium. in the city in the
Yes,
fall.
okay.
Yeah, so we'll see how that turns out. But so yeah, so
Actually, my question is maybe relevant. Have you ever thought of doing a one-person show, even since you don't have to be the other person, for a
right.
famous woman like a Mae West or a I don't know some other great performer? Because you don't have to be dress up as them. You could still sing their songs. You could still tell about who they were and what
Hmm.
they did. Possibly, maybe.
I've never thought of that, but what is more appealing to me would be for to like run into or meet someone who is focused on or has a real soul connection to some historic figure, whether they're in showbiz or not, and wanted to work on creating a one-person experience. And then I would help them to maybe write that and direct that. That to me would be much, more exciting.
But aren't you working on other things for yourself?
Yes.
On
So
the go. Yeah.
the Verrazano piece, which is going to be May 5th at the Montauk Library. There's that striking picture. This particular show, which is also a one-man show based on some letters and his writings, this one is really taking a toll on me. No bell. Oh, a little bell.
This is like a joke. It's like that bridge that collapsed in Maryland right there. That's just, like, please, no.
And this
Yeah.
And this is all because the director of programs, who's been out at the Montauk Library, Carolyn Balducci, who's a real, she loves theater. She's just so incredibly well educated. She loves to research. She had me do a Leonardo da Vinci one-man presentation a couple of years ago, and I've done my other shows out there. I've done the Joel Grey. I've done a one-man show about the poetry of Michelangelo. Yeah. So
Did you
there's been
are some of those non-musical? Are they just
yes,
more
yes,
lecture-y, bio-y
yep.
kind of thing? Oh, I'm just
Sure.
wondering. Okay, so the
Uh,
Verrazano, I
so
would
Verrazano, May 5th
you
at
don't
the
have them
Montauk
singing the
Library.
bridge over troubled waters or anything like that.
No, yeah, I was joking with her quite often as to what she was going to call it, a bridge too far, or yeah, a crossing over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so that's May 5th. And just this past week was the big 500th anniversary of when Verrazano sailed into and basically discovered, because he was commissioned by the French, he was working for the French at the time, he discovered basically New York Harbor, Block Island, and Narragansett Bay. And they did a big thing in Staten Island this past week.
Oh, I
So,
imagine they would. But so here's one. What is one that you haven't done yet that you're researching and
okay. So
tell
believe it, and you will appreciate this. The one that I'm working on slowly is the Cantor and Cantor. Now, Cantor and Cantor was my idea of connecting with a cantor who works at he's a cantor in Jericho. His name is David Katz. Okay.
good
Um,
name? Yes.
yes, good name. Yes.
I thought,
Um,
I thought you were going to connect Eddie Cantor and Cantor's Deli in L.A. And
no.
no, the
So
sandwiches.
somebody told me about Cantor Katz. They told me, Bob, you have to hear this man. He is incredible. He sings everything. He does all of the various cantorial songs, but he also does musical theater. He soars. He's legit. He's just, it's incredible. And you should do a show with him, or maybe you could bring him to Country Point, and you could, but you'll figure something out. This is someone who I guess was part of the congregation in Jericho at some point. So I connected with the Cantor. I made a Cantor connection, and I thought, I've been wanting, and I've done some Eddie Cantor material along over the years here and there. I thought this is the perfect opportunity to put a show together with Cantor, as in David Katz, doing all sorts of unique, interesting material that he can just soar on,
Right.
and me doing Eddie Cantor.
I was wondering where that came. Got it. Let me ask you. In these times, I have two different Eddie Cantor questions for you.
Okay.
One is, I assume you know or have been in touch with or have had a lot of dealings with, but I don't know.
Brian
Gary,
Right.
who's and who'll give you all sorts of information. And then,
Yes.
Okay, so he's a friend of our show, and
Of course.
but also in terms of when you talk about Eddie Cantor, he's been basically pushed aside because a lot of his appearances on film, a lot of the songs that he did, he's in Schwarzeface. He's literally, boom, and his songs, what, and the eyes rolling like a black person wouldn't actually do, but he's made up like one. How do you skirt that issue, with a woke audience and the times that we're in?
That's an area and an element that doesn't even need to come into play here because it's not a whole one-man show about Eddie Cantor. It's more about
you've already done. Haven't you done one-person shows as Cantor before?
No.
Oh, you haven't. Okay.
No. I've done some spot songs here and there. And I did something many years ago. It was a little I don't know, maybe a 15 or 20-minute presentation at the Jonas Salk School on Long Island. They were doing something because I had done a lot of work with the Long Island chapter of the March of Dimes. I had helped them with various shows. I had served as a master of ceremonies for many of their benefit events. And they were doing something to celebrate the combination, because the March of Dimes, of course, that name came from Eddie Cantor.
I did not remember that.
He gave them that name. Yeah. So I had done something, and the connection,
by the way,
FDR and polio, and all of these.
I made a joke there, and you just rolled right over it. Said, with inflation now, it's now the March of Dollars. Right. Yeah. Sorry. Now continue, please. Yes.
So, but I just I'm going to really rewind now. In elementary school, there was a director who wanted to do some celebration and call it America 199. That was in 1976. You can do the math and figure out why they wanted to call it America 199.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Okay. Right. And I don't remember, because I don't necessarily think I, as an elementary school boy, knew of Eddie Cantor unless somebody told me about Eddie Cantor. But I wound up doing in that show, If You Knew Susie.
I know, but that girl.
Right.
Yeah.
So for some reason, that stayed in here someplace. And I just always remember. And then when I started to, over the years, hear more about Eddie Cantor, read more about him. I mean, a humanitarian, a businessman, radio, film, television, Broadway, everything. I mean, he really was. I mean, in a way, he was a little bit like Danny Kaye in many ways.
I see that. Yes.
And Joel Grey was almost discovered on Eddie Cantor's Colgate Comedy Hour show. And in my Joel Grey show, we show the clip of Joel Grey, okay, who went back and forth between being called Joel K, as in Danny Kaye, and Joel Katz, because his father, of course, was the famous Mickey Katz.
Right.
Just again, all of this dovetailing where I just find all of these interesting things that connect, almost like, again, I'm supposed to be doing them.
But tomorrow at Lynbrook Library, people will see this. Go see the clips of Joel Grey. Do you do it performing any of the songs from his?
I do about 14 or 15, 16 songs, something like that, while telling stories. And I really try to kind of do a bit of an overview. And again, people remember. I think Joel Grey was on people's minds perhaps within the last week, because there was some publicity about his birthday, but there was publicity dealing with the fact that he attended this new revival.
Cabaret.
Cabaret with Eddie Redmayne playing the Master of Ceremonies. So that's been interesting. So people do tend to look for that particular show. I won't be doing my Danny Kaye show again until the fall, and I'll be doing it out in East Hampton at the LTV Studios. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be an
quick question about the Danny Kaye show. Do you actually do like the not double talking, but the kind of really fast sort of things that he was known for? Where
you mean there's Malachevsky, Rubinstein, Arensky, and Tchaikovsky, Chepernikov, Terichian, Karevchin, Kirijinovsky, Godowsky, Artabuchev, Moniuszko, Wakimenko, etc. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yes,
I do.
You know what the next show you should be then also doing is Sid Caesar.
Oh, Yeah.
I could see you doing it.
Yeah.
And you can do the language thing, and you're he was on Broadway and I think Little Me or something. Maybe Sid Caesar. That would be
Yes.
one that just
There was, I used to see a glorious photo of Sid Caesar that was on one of the stairs in the Friars Club, and I would see this every day going up and down the stairs, and it's just it's funny because I'm doing another show that again is not open to the public, which I'm not necessarily promoting per se, but I'm doing it at Meadowbrook Point in Westbury, also in May, and it's called Bob's Broadway Mix. And it's me doing songs from Broadway shows from the 60s and 70s.
Oh, all right.
And these songs have a real meaning, an interest to me. They're songs that I can perform and perform well. If it goes well, I will do a 80s and 90s version, which is kind of fun. So yeah, so again, a lot of these things have been kind of coming to me, and I jump on them and run with them. Out of the blue, I got that call to do my P.T. Barnum one-man show, which I did many, many years ago, and that's going to be at the Bethpage Public Library.
So everybody can see that one. When is that?
July 29th.
Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. So let's have the big three that are coming up in spring and summer. So you've got tomorrow at the Lynbrook Library, you have the Joel Grey Show, Shades of Grey. What time is that?
1:30.
And people can get tickets just by dialing.
Yeah, they're not even taking reservations. I think you could just show up.
Oh, just show up at the Lynbrook Library and steal a bunch of books and sit around and be there for Joel Grey. That's tomorrow. When is the next? Is it the K? Not the K. It's the.
Well, probably. I mean, maybe the P.T. Barnum. I guess.
Well, when's the Montauk one? There's the one you mentioned.
Oh yes, the Verrazano. That's May 5th.
May 5th,
right.
So that's very close. That's
at 3 p.m. May 5th, 3 p.m.
Montauk Library open to the public, and of course, if you want to go near Country Point Estates and go across the street, go on the rooftop with binoculars. And then you can watch, because you're not allowed in, but you can watch Bob Spiotto doing all the things that he does there, all the things he puts together, and all the shows that he does. So, Bob, my main question for you now is, I mean, you are indefatigable. I can see you doing the job you're doing for another 15, 20 years. Do you live on campus? I mean, do you live on campus? Do you live?
No, I don't live there, no.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're literally a hired gun to go there and do all these.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, 5 days a week.
Yeah. You have a wife and kids and grandkids or anything like that?
Yes, I have a wife. That's her name, Rochelle. You see it right down there. There it is. Right.
Yeah, Rochelle. And
yes.
Do you have youngins, baby things?
I do have a son from a previous marriage. Yes.
Right. Okay. What's he? Is he in the entertainment, or did he run far away? He
is far away.
Well, you're still close, right? You're talking about him like, I'm sorry. Okay, no. He saw you performing at Cantor, and
you know, I really I just, you know, it's hard not to say, you know, so much of this comes from my father. May he rest in peace. You know, my father was a salesman for many, many, many years. He had the gift of gab, the gift of comedy. He was a part-time musician. He used to take me on the gigs with him. He used to let me sit down and play the drums. When the band would take a break from playing, you know, a lot of requested music, the pianist would sit down and play, and then my father would sit down in the drums. And then as a kid, I would get up and I would just dance on the dance floor and entertain the people at whatever the event was. And here's the crazy part. The name of the band that my father had was called the Court Jesters.
Danny Kaye reference, and a very, you know, yeah. It's
right.
As you used the word, the Italian word bashert. You used it before.
I did.
There it is. Well, it has been bashert and lovely, and I am not jesting, but I'm saying in a courtly way, ding ding, that we have had a wonderful time with Bob Spiotto. Is it Spiotto or Spiotto? How can
you said it? You said it better than some of the Italians. The first way, yes.
He's you know, he's doing most of his stuff at Country Point, but obviously You can see them at all these other libraries. Can they go to a website and figure out where they can actually see you? You know, do you have a website of your own or anything?
I don't, but I always respond to anybody on Facebook that messages me, or yeah, I'm very approachable. So
Everybody approach him and bribe him to get into the complex there, because that's the only way you can, unless someone drops dead. And you can poison them, but they're Jews. Their stomachs are already cast iron. It would take forever to actually poison these people. It's like, what you got, rat poison? That's nothing. I had cholent last night. I mean, it's just anyway. Ding, ding, ding. Bob Spiotto, it has been just delightful to have you in the neighborhood. I wish you fantastic health. I wish you fantastic shows and performances, and the joy that you bring, obviously, to everything.
Thank you.
Shalom to you.
And to you. Happy Passover, too. Thank you.
Thank you. And happy whatever the hell. What's your next Italian thing? I don't even
Not for a while yet.
Shalom. Have a great one. Oh, my friends, Bob Spiotto in the neighborhood on this Shabbos morning, April 20th, 2024. I am Rabbi Sol Solomon, the founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches. And if you want to find out more about me, I do have a website, shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T. Shalomdammit.com. This is where you can read and hear my rabbinical reflections. You can click and find all the interviews I've done on this program. Plus, you can even see, speaking of theater, the show that I did, Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Me, that was done off Broadway a few years back. We filmed it. It's beautiful. You have to watch it.